What's up, shiny happy people? Today, Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, we're going to be talking about this new Gallup poll that came out that everybody's freaking out about. I got some insight on that I want to share with you. In addition to that, I've got Ashley Brassfield from the Daily Caller. I'm going to be doing an interview with her. She wrote an amazing article about the SAVE Act, and she talked to Mike Lee about it. Then, of course, we've got the press conference coming up with Karoline Leavitt, which I'm sure the topic of discussion will be all about the Epstein files and how these Epstein files were complete vindication for Donald Trump. President Donald Trump was the one who dropped dime on Jeffrey Epstein. Now what do you got to do? All this thing has been going on for 10 or 11 years. This is why I've been so apprehensive in dealing with this, because it was heinous. It was horrible what happened. But at the same time, the Democrats have been trying to weaponize something so bad, something so heinous, something so vile. They've been trying to weaponize it for political points, instead of just going after the people who actually did things. Now, it's likely that nobody's going to be charged. It's likely that nobody's going to go to jail over this. The only person in jail is Ghislaine Maxwell, and in case you didn't hear her yesterday, this is all she had to say.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, did you at any time play any role in Jeffrey Epstein's activities involving the recruitment, grooming, or trafficking of young women or girls?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, have you ever coerced, directed, or otherwise instructed any young woman or girl to provide sexual favors to Mr. Epstein or any other individual?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, did you and Jeffrey Epstein attempt to surround yourselves with influential individuals to curry favor and shield yourselves from potential scrutiny?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, can you please provide us with all the names of other additional co-conspirators to the crimes perpetuated by you and Jeffrey Epstein?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, is it your intention to answer every question put to you by the committee today with the assertion of your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
The answer to that is yes also. So just as her lawyer, I'll tell you, yes, that's her intention.
So if Karoline Maxwell isn't talking, and if the so-called victims who may have been part of this whole thing aren't talking, even though Elon Musk said he would bankroll them against any lawsuit. And by the way, in case anybody knows, defamation they don't have to worry about defamation. If they're telling the truth, there is no defamation. So there's no reason for these people, these women, not to speak out. There's no reason for these women not to name names. None. Not a single reason. I think at this point we have to realize, as tough of a pill as this is to swallow, we're probably never going to see anybody arrested, and we're probably not going to see anybody convicted. It sucks. I know it sucks. But how much more are we going to just keep talking about this thing over and over and over and over for the next, 10 years? We're going to keep talking about it and watch nothing happen. Doesn't matter who the attorney general is. Doesn't matter who the president is. These people seemingly got away with it. And the only people who could possibly even remotely put these people away aren't talking.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions.
So no, I'm not a pedo protector, and I don't think many people are pedo protectors. We'd like to see these people strung up, but absent any real, tangible, verifiable evidence, it's just not going to happen. And so why are we still going back and forth on all this? It just makes for political fodder. And by the way, just one other thing to let you know. Step away from X. Step away from Facebook and Instagram and talk to real people. I went to my guy who does my stretch exercise with me, and I asked him, you talk about this? Your clients talk about it? Nope. Never. I asked my sisters, anyone that you work with, any of your friends? And by the way, my sisters have always been Democrats. Anybody you know talking about this? Nope. It just seems like this is X and Facebook fodder. Doesn't seem real anymore. With all that being said, let's get on with the show. Right after this quick message from today's featured sponsor, Brightcore. Good afternoon, everybody. A little ride-along intro gives me time to check the numbers, make sure the stream is okay, that everything is working, make sure we're on schedule, everything is fine. And what I just said there at the end, I'm just going to say just a little bit of clarity on that, because I always have to say it, because invariably somebody is going to say, you're a pedo protector. Nope. I am merely a realist. I am merely a realist. What I'm going to show you until Karoline comes on, and we'll talk about it afterwards as well, is I believe this entire thing is nothing more than a distraction and a ruse used to keep us from focusing on what we should be focusing on. I know that bothers some people. It bothers me. But I don't have anything I can do about this stuff other than to show you that I think the Democrats got played big time, and then to urge you, to compel you, to ask you, do what I did. Start talking to your friends, your family, if you're in a job, your coworkers, people you run into, and ask them, hey, listen, you heard about this Epstein stuff? And you'll realize that those of us who are news junkies, we've known about this thing forever, for a long time. But the normies, they don't. It's crickets. It means absolutely nothing to them. Seriously, ask your friends and family. It's funny, I put up a poll, and this poll has a good sample volume right now. of MAGA supporters, most likely, probably. We've had almost 1,600 people respond in today's poll. 1,600, which is more than these entire, sometimes, political polls even put out there. 1,600 people have responded. Out of the 1,600 people who have responded, 70% said nobody they know talks about Epstein. 30%, or rather 26%, said a little. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to realize that's 96% of the people you are chatting with right now say nobody's talking about this. Yet between Savannah Guthrie's mom and everything that's going on with these hearings and the Twitter, you would think that's all people are talking about. But it's not true. This is a distraction. As painful as it may be, as offensive as it may be, insulting, painful, nobody cares. It doesn't affect your life even this much. And it's made to give the Democrats a way to throw bricks in the front of the ongoing Trump train. It's made to give the Democrats something to talk about because there's nothing else they can talk about. Nobody wants to focus on the here and now and what's happening and how things are going in this country. We can't even get the news to talk about anything other than Savannah Guthrie's mom. God bless her. It's not real. Well, in one sense, it's real, and I'll tell you about that when I come back. Let me tell you a second about today's sponsor, which is Brightcore. You see, early onset dementia, which I think some of the people in Congress have, and Alzheimer's are on the rise. Reports show a 373% increase in diagnoses among 30 to 44-year-old people and a 311% increase in people 45 to 54. That's just in the United States in recent years. When doctors treat these brain diseases, they often focus on medicating the brain itself, addressing symptoms instead of the root cause, which is chronic inflammation and oxidative stress. These factors damage brain cells and lead to the buildup of toxic proteins, the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease, much like what happens in the body. Many brain issues trace back to gut microbiome. There's a direct communication line between your gut and your brain, the gut-brain axis, they call it, where gut bacteria influences inflammation, your mood, your memory, and cognitive function. That's why what you eat matters so much. They did a study here, and this recent study shows that kimchi contains over 900 probiotic strains, and the study shows its bioactive compounds help reduce inflammation, protect brain cells, and even improve your memory and cognitive function by preventing amyloid beta plaque buildup. I bet you many of you didn't even know anything about amyloid beta plaque buildup, but now you do. That's why Brightcore created Kimchi One. It delivers all the benefits of real kimchi in convenient capsules with no bad taste, no smell, and virtually no sodium. It's made in the USA and it's non-GMO. And if you'd like to get yourself some Kimchi One, you can get an exclusive offer by clicking the link in the description for 25% off of your entire order. Or for an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off of your order and free shipping. Give them a call right now. Operators are standing by. 888-418-6738.
One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet who millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
In 2006, Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder was frustrated with how local prosecutors were handling the Epstein investigation. He asked the state attorney to remove himself from the case, and when that didn't happen, the chief turned his evidence over to the FBI.
And they said, this is an easy case. This is a horrific situation. We'll put him away for the rest of his life.
The FBI is telling you he's going to go away for the rest of his life for this stuff.
Yes, and then that's what the U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorneys, told us as well.
By now, Virginia was raising a family on the other side of the world in Australia. She says she didn't know anything about the investigation in Palm Beach until her phone rang one day. It was Ghislaine Maxwell.
I was in shock, and she said, listen, have you heard about this investigation going on about Epstein? And I said, no, I don't follow the news. I watch the Wiggles most days. And she goes, well, are you going to talk? And I said, well, if I don't know about any investigation going on, then how am I going to talk?
That might surprise you. It might surprise you because the woman talking was Virginia Jeffrey, I believe that's how you say her name, and she committed suicide. She's dead. So she can't talk. They were concerned she might talk, and then to make sure that she didn't talk, she decided to leave her kids and her family and off herself. The woman talking to her, you may recognize because it's on 24/7, was Savannah Guthrie. Is there any tie to this? I don't know. But it's kind of eerie, isn't it? It's kind of eerie that the two people you saw in that, minute-long clip, the two people, one is dead by suicide, and the other one, they can't find her mother. I don't know how you can do anything other than look at this and say, it's very, very odd, to say the least. That her mom disappears for whatever reason, and the other one is dead and had gotten a phone call directly from Ghislaine Maxwell. By the way, did you hear the date? The date was 2006. We are in 2026. So this entire thing has been going on for over 20 years, over the course of a few different presidencies, a number of attorney generals. And yet we're no closer today of getting any resolution than they were in 2006. What does that tell you? I mean, now if you sit back with a rational mind and say, have they been chasing this story this long, for 20 years? Even some of the victims at this point are probably moms and moved on. For 20 years, 2006, you can count. How many different presidents was that? How many different attorney generals? How many different FBI directors? Over 20 plus years, and nothing has happened. Nobody. You would think President Trump is the first president ever to see the Epstein files and have no real arrest associated with it. Why is nobody in the media going, yeah, this has been going on for 2 decades, and nobody has been able to arrest or put anybody away other than President Trump? Oh, that's right. He was president when Epstein got put in jail. But nobody else, not a single other president, not a single other attorney general, not a single other FBI director has done anything with the Epstein stuff in 20 years. So why all of a sudden is it Donald Trump's problem? Oh, that's right. He's in the actual emails, right? Okay.
Award-winning investigative reporter for the Miami Herald, whose work was instrumental in exposing the extent of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. She's also the author of Perversion of Justice, the Jeffrey Epstein Story. Tonight, Julie, you have new reporting for the Miami Herald in a piece titled "Trump Told Palm Beach Police Chief Everyone Knew About Epstein, Maxwell Was Evil." So, Julie, your new reporting in the Herald tonight is about comments then Citizen Trump allegedly made to the Palm Beach police some 20 years ago about Epstein and Maxwell. Can you just walk us through it?
Yes. To put this in context, this was in July of 2006.
Okay, let's just stop there, right? Because many of you probably don't know this. July of 2006, President, back then, citizen, businessman, Donald Trump had said, hey, this dirtbag is doing something, and he's got this paramour chick that's helping recruit. Many of us knew this. Many of us got kicked off of Twitter and Facebook and YouTube because we knew this and were talking about it for some time. It's amazing watching all the newcomers out there now, not the illegal ones, but the other newcomers fresh to politics are like, oh my gosh, this Epstein stuff is crazy. Where were you? Where were you? We've seen the pictures, actual pictures. We've seen the stories. We've seen it all. Literally. Tap on the shoulder of somebody who's been around for the last 10, anybody who's been kicked off of X. Maybe you wanted to, hey, if you were kicked off of X back then, Twitter, can you let me know what you were kicked off for? Well, we started talking about all this stuff and nobody wanted us to even say a word. And then Biden was going to put in the minister of disinformation because it was all disinformation. Funny, all the politicians on the left and some on the right, all of the media, everybody tried to have us drawn and quartered for even talking about it. And now they can't stop talking about it. Anybody find that funny? If you knew anybody like me or Robin or anybody, and we were trying to even get the word out, oh, you conspiracy theorists, oh, you nuts. And now the same people who called us nuts can't stop talking about it. It's everywhere. So when I say I'm apprehensive, I'm over it, it's because we've been down this road. We got the t-shirt fell apart. And we're like, nothing's going to happen. It's been going on for 20 plus years, people. The media just needs a reason right now to slow Trump down. They need to divert you. The Savannah Guthrie thing isn't enough. Let's just don't look at the economy. Don't look at the things that are going good. Don't look at the border. Focus over here. Look at Bad Bunny. It's so hard doing this sometimes because I was talking to Ashley this morning. We got to keep talking about stuff that's in the news, but the stuff that's been in the news has been in the news for 20 years and nothing's happened. It almost reminds me of something else. Let me think. Oh, yeah, a president getting killed in 1963 that we still keep talking about, and nothing's happened. Nothing. Oh, the great conspiracy of what happened with JFK. This is the new JFK. This is the new conspiracy that people will write about for decades, and no one's going to have any answers. Those of you old enough to remember JFK, those of you old enough to remember JFK Jr., those of you old enough to remember Martin Luther King, those of you old enough to remember RFK Sr., you've seen this movie. You've lived through this movie. You got t-shirts too, don't you? Yeah. What happened? Nothing. And so all the youngsters running around, Epstein, 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 and the rest of us are like, shut up, please. Your government sucks. It's got a cancer. The media is involved, and they will do anything in their power to shut you up. But this time, no, the difference this time is they don't want you to shut up. They want you to keep talking about it because in their mind, they thought they had Trump. And the whole time Trump had them. How did Trump know that he had them? Because we've gone through this already. See, people think that this was some sort of 3D chess. It wasn't 3D chess. We already had, it was like Marty, Back to the Future, when you had the manual. We all had the manual. Okay, this is what happened. This is what's going to, oh yeah, remember this? Oh yeah, remember these pictures? True, yeah, these pictures. We already had it. And now the media is acting like, oh my, we got a newfound revelation. Some bombshells came out. Bombshells? You want to see the bomb? I don't think you want to see the bombshells. Oh, I'll let you know when the bombshells come out. I'm pretty sure there's a few people in here who have seen the bombshells. Bet you the media doesn't want to talk about them. Panda eyes is all I'll say about that.
And it was right around the time that Epstein was arrested and that there were stories in the media about him being accused of having sex or sexually abusing minors at his mansion. And it was right after that story broke in Palm Beach that Trump called the Palm Beach police chief, who he knew well because, you know, Trump knew a lot of people in Palm Beach, including the chief, and made this comment to the effect that, everyone knew. First, he wanted to thank the police for finally stopping him because, again, Epstein was finally arrested at this time, and then said everybody knew. And he also goes on to describe to tell the police to really take a good look at Maxwell because she was sort of the quote unquote operative and she was evil. And he also mentioned that he had been in some kind of a space with Epstein and a bunch of teenage girls. It bothered him and he said, I got the hell out of there. So this is in the context of Trump finding out that Epstein is really being scrutinized now for what he was doing with underage girls and coming to the Palm Beach police chief and saying, well, thank you. Everybody knew he was doing this.
This morning,
that dropped yesterday. A story about President Trump going to the police chief in Palm Beach in 2006 was all of a sudden breaking news. People, the reason why I'm even showing this to you is because you have been bamboozled if you think any of this is new or was unknown. Everything you're seeing, every single bit of it, every single thing they're saying in these hearings has all been known. It was just that most people never saw it because they weren't paying attention, or if they were paying attention, they were told there's nothing here, nothing for you to see. It's a conspiracy theory. All these right-wing nuts. I can't tell you how many times I've probably patted myself on the back and patted other people on the back for realizing we're not conspiracy theorists. In fact, one of the things I say to you guys often is there's no such thing as a conspiracy theory. It's just things you don't know about yet. I can't even tell you how many times people I know have been called conspiracy theorists. Oh, there's no such thing. That never happened. And then finally, you find out it happened, which makes you think about the other stuff they said didn't happen. See, I wasn't an adult when JFK was killed, and I just saw afterwards how they said, oh, there's all kind of conspiracy theories about the second shooter. And they're like, oh, yeah, they were nuts. Until people say, you're nuts. I'm like, wait a minute. I saw stuff. I actually saw the same things, the same redacted crap they're showing now. I already saw it. And it makes you realize at this point, maybe the people back in 1963 weren't conspiracy nuts. Maybe Marilyn Monroe didn't die of an OD. Maybe, we don't know. Because obviously, the deep state, they're good at putting stuff real deep. And they're not liking what's going on right now. They are not liking that this stuff is bubbling up. Too many people were involved in too many dark things, and it's funny that the only one they seem to find that's not is the guy who's president, that they tried to impeach, that they tried to kill, that they tried to throw in jail. Wake up, people. Don't listen to the crap because you've got your own conspiratorial evidence. They didn't do this to Obama. They didn't do it to Biden. They didn't do it to Clinton. They didn't do it to Bush. But all of a sudden, this guy, they have to completely destroy from the top down. Everybody in the left media, some of the right media, some of the right politicians, every single left politician, they lie with impunity. They don't care because Trump must be stopped. He's an existential threat. How many times have you heard that without saying an existential threat to what? That's the question. What is he an existential threat to? Our way of life, our values. Well, 80% of the people taking a poll said none of this matters to them. Your friends and family don't talk about it. So it's not a threat to our values. Whose values? Whose way of life? If I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be driving around with Robin at the beach or maybe on a boat. What way of life is being impeded because, Trump's doing what he's doing, which is trying to save America, but don't say that. You're a pedo protector.
Document coming to light claims in the mid-2000s, President Trump called police about Jeffrey Epstein. Among the 3 million Epstein files released by the Department of Justice last month is a 4-page FBI report on an interview the Bureau conducted in 2019 with the man believed to be former Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder. Ryder and his detectives began investigating Epstein for human trafficking in 2004. According to the document, Trump called Ryder around that time and said, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Ryder also says Trump said he threw Epstein out of his club, and he was around Epstein once when teenagers were present, and Trump got the hell out of there.
One more question on that document.
So many people understood what Epstein was doing, and many people on Palm Beach knew that Trump was the one that dropped dime on him. We're not talking to something that happened yesterday. Any reporter could have walked up, went into the Palm Beach Police Department, opened up some files, and seen any of this. Then you ask yourself, why didn't they? Well, it's funny because I'm going to show you an interview, and some enterprising man on the street thought he was going to get a scoop of a lifetime, even phrased it about being a scoop of a lifetime, and he got embarrassed.
And this goes to the more salacious rumors, but I would like you to just, whatever you can say on it. Obviously, our current president has had relationships with Epstein in the past, and there are those...
You see how he framed that? Obviously, meaning you can't refute that. He obviously had relationships with Jeffrey Epstein, and I'm sorry, I just got interrupted. I'm looking on screen and they're showing pictures of the alleged kidnapper messing around with the Ring doorbell at Guthrie's house. And we are, what, 10 days in and we're now just seeing it? Oh my God, this is crazy. But anyway, this guy thinks he's getting a scoop of a lifetime and he's going to frame it as though President Trump is the bad guy.
Katie Johnson and maybe other victims who accuse Trump of being involved in things like this. In my experience, Trump supporters will not listen to anything along those lines. Obviously, we're not a court of law.
Trump supporters won't listen. You kidding me, right? We're the ones who are called conspiracy theorists. We've been listening. We're the ones who saw the pictures. We're the ones who tried to talk about it. We're the ones that tried to inform people. We're the ones that got kicked off every platform possible. We're the ones that they almost put in a minister of disinformation because they didn't want us talking. You're the ones who went along with all that. This is gaslighting 101.
All here right now, but are those claims of though that case was dropped? It was dropped before it went to court. In your opinion, as a lawyer and your experience, is there anything you can say as to the validity of those claims, or whether or not there will be any more about that?
Nothing at all. The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009.
I'm only showing this because I know so many people have been attacked and called names, and there's so many people who didn't know this, and there's so many people who are seeing what's going on, and they're like, oh my God, this is horrible, and you don't realize you're watching a movie, that you're watching a scripted drama being played out like a Law and Order episode meant to completely gaslight you and do everything possible to derail what the President Trump is doing. They're having hearings all day today, not about Epstein. There's a commerce hearing, there's a ICE hearing, there's all kinds of hearings. And you know how they do that round robin crap, right? Where you get 5 minutes, you get 5 minutes. So I show up to do a hearing. We're going to talk about money, commerce, finance. It's Epstein. We're going to spend my 5 minutes talking about Epstein. But you're going to hear some of this stuff. They can't not talk about it because they can't allow you to focus on what is going well. That's the entirety of this, is to make sure that you can't see anywhere. In fact, let me just show you what's on screen up here, because here it is 10 days into this Savannah Guthrie thing. And this is what we get.
When we first heard about reporting that they had photos, we were thinking it might have been surveillance from the surrounding area that would show a grainy picture from afar. This is
10 days later, you get this picture. You recognize him? Some dude with a ski mask, a backpack, and gloves, and just now. Hey, if you've seen this individual, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI. I don't know how you'd know that was somebody, but that's just today, just now at 1:10. Now we're seeing this. Don't look here. Look over here. What the hell's going on in our media? It's absolutely absurd what's happening. And so I'm just getting you ready for what's coming up in this press conference, because we know it's going to be Epstein. Hey, what's J.D. Vance doing? Oh, he's over, in Armenia doing a peace deal. Did you know that? What's Pete Hegseth doing? Oh, he's out there recruiting and doing stuff. What's Kristi Noem doing? What's going on in the court system? Nothing. Epstein. And we have our favorite pollster out there today. I'll have to show it to you. It's insane. It literally is a cornucopia of insanity. Instead of let's do what's necessary. I've told Ashley and I talked to Robin, I'm like, man, I don't like the direction we're taking with this. And the direction that we seemingly take right now is reporting on stuff that's stale milk. It's nasty, stale, lumpy milk that everybody keeps talking about. And the reason we keep talking about it because people on X keep talking about nothing's happening. And I want to ask them, well, what happened since 2006? Please tell me. Anybody? Did you just wake up? It's like Rip Van Winkle. You just find out all of a sudden these kids have been, funny things have been happening to them for 20 years, but it's Trump's fault. Oh, Epstein's not going to go away. You're going to lose the midterms. Why? Because Epstein. Did Obama lose his midterms? I know, just saying. Why did Obama not lose the midterms? We're being conditioned, and it's evil conditioning, because I think it's just the opposite. I think if they show you enough crap like this, it completely desensitizes you, where it becomes normal. Yeah, people are doing things to kids and young women, and it's in part of your government, and there's really nothing you can do about it. It's been going on way before you knew, and it's going to continue. It's just the way things are. People who've got power abuse power, and that's just it. Nothing you can do about it.
Why did the Epstein files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012?
14 years ago. 14 years ago, they were asking about Howard Lutnick, whose Epstein was his next door neighbor. I'm telling you right now, I don't even know what's in my next door neighbor's past. I mean, we've been here for, at least in this address where the studio is, we're here for 4 or 5 years. Well, I went next door. I understand he's a retired cop. I don't know anything else about him.
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to be here to make it clear that I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York.
By the way, in case you don't know, that's Mr. Tariff, Howard Lutnick. And Howard Lutnick is the Secretary of Commerce. And he's talking at a hearing that he thought he was talking about finance. We're going to talk about how the economy's doing great because we're making so much money because of the tariffs. Nope. No, we don't care about people being prosperous. That's not our concern here in Congress. Our concern here isn't about people's livelihoods being better. No, What are you concerned with? Epstein.
Right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him. And then a year and a half after that, I met him, and never again. Probably the total, and you've seen all of these documents, of these millions and millions of documents, there may be 10 emails connecting me with him, probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person, okay?
Secretary Lutnick, I think you understand the root of concern here. It's the way you described very emphatically your first encounter with him in his apartment, said you were disgusted, would never have any contact with him again. Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it, but
Mr. Secretary, again, as I said, there's not an indication that you yourself engaged in any wrongdoing with Jeffrey.
If there's no indication that you engaged in any wrongdoing, then what are we talking about? The fact that you had a hamburger and some fries sitting on a boat with a bad guy. If you're going to start arresting billionaires for having lunch with other billionaires, some of whom are very bad people, you may not be able to even have any economy. You may not be able to have any international relations. If by your own admission, oh, no one's accusing you of doing anything wrong, then what the hell are we here for? What are you even asking me? What kind of steak did he have? That one statement, no one's accusing you of doing anything wrong. We just want to know why you would have lunch with somebody like that. This is where you start getting into behavioral analysis paralysis. The Epstein thing is so bad that the fact that you wiped your butt with Epstein's toilet paper might get you in a lot of heat with these guys. By the way, the guy asking the questions is the same guy who went to El Salvador to meet and engage with a lunch with the Maryland man who trafficked women. I just can't. You sat down and had a margarita and some lunch with the guy who trafficked women last year, who is in a jail. You already know for sure he's got problems. I think he thinks you forgot that. The guy, you remember, the Maryland man, drug addict, drug dealer, abuser. Oh, he's a great man. We got to get him home. And you're asking somebody about lunch 14 years ago.
It's the fact that you believe that you misled the country and the Congress based on your earlier statements, suggesting that you cut off all contact when in fact you had not. When you visited the private island, did you see anything inappropriate during that visit?
The only thing I saw with my wife and my children and the other couple and their children was staff who worked for Mr. Epstein on that island.
And you realize that, this visit took place after he'd been convicted, right? I mean, you made a very big point of saying that you sensed that this was a bad person in 2005. And then, of course, in 2008, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution of a minor. And yet you went and had this trip and other interactions. Did you have...
So you went and had lunch with somebody who beat women and trafficked women and was due to be deported. These people, I can't. I don't understand how they sit in front of cameras. I've said many times, they only exist because people don't have any memory. Should Howard Lutnick have known better than to meet with this guy who has been convicted of, at that time, solicitation? Probably proper decorum would have been like, you know what? Maybe, I'm not going to bring my kids around here. Should he have been considering a business deal as a private citizen with him? Well, money. Money talked. It's funny he didn't ask him about the business transaction they were talking about. Only thing he wants to know, did you have lunch? Yeah, I had lunch. I am not covering for Howard Lutnick. All I'm saying, very specifically, without any equivocation, is that you're talking about something from 14 years ago, and it has nothing to do with the man he is today. And he didn't partake. You just want to put the stench onto him because of who Epstein was, which has no consequence to what is being done right now in, with his job.
Dinner in Epstein's New York City home in 2011.
No.
So the information that suggests that there was a dinner with Woody Allen and Woody Allen's spouse at the Epstein residence, that's there's nothing to that. Is that right?
Wait. So now you have a problem. If I went to a dinner at a third party's house, Woody Allen, who, by the way, don't like him either. But if I went to dinner at Woody's house and Woody had guests, and one of the guests that Woody had was Epstein, I should be flayed for that. You're kidding me, right? By the way, Mr. Van Hollen, have you asked Senator Chuck Schumer about the donations that he received from Epstein? Since the stench is what is the big problem.
I actually don't know what you're referring to. I looked through the millions of documents for my name, just like everybody else. And what I found was there was a document that...
I just want to say, Gina says, can we go to the press conference? There is no press conference yet. They're all set up. They're ready to go. Here, let me prove that to you right there. They're in the room. You're not missing anything. That's why I always have content ready to go, just in case she's late. And right now she is indeed 23 minutes late. So you're not being forced to watch something in lieu of the press conference. She hasn't come out yet. So that's the room right there, as you recognize. She just hasn't come out. So I would never just keep talking over something. She just hasn't come out yet.
Says that I had a meeting with him in May, I think, for an hour at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Not dinner or otherwise, for an hour at 5 o'clock.
All right. There's also a reference to the fact that Epstein had expressed an interest in meeting your nanny. Do you know whether Jeffrey Epstein ever met with your nanny?
No, I saw that. I had no idea what that was about.
But it troubles me that you took your family to lunch on his island, that you had appointments with him. Please disclose everything. Put this to rest, because this is an issue of grave concern to my constituents. President Trump ran on releasing the Epstein files. You said casually, well, I looked at my name and how...
Wait. Back up. What did he just say? Listen to what Chris says here. You guys tell me if you heard this.
Of grave concern to my constituents. President Trump ran on releasing the Epstein files.
I've gone through the 20-step agenda 47, and I've gone through every single one of those 22 things that President Trump actually ran on. I've shown it in many videos. All of the different things that President Trump ran on. Chris Coons, you're a liar. None of those 20 things said, we're going to run on the Epstein files. You know why? As you see in today's poll, nobody gives a shit. I'm sorry to offend you, Chris, and your constituents who didn't have a problem with Joe Biden showering with his daughter from Delaware, where you're from. Those constituents didn't seem to have any problem whatsoever with Joe Biden showering with his daughter. Now, my words, her words. She said that. None of you people had a problem with that, though.
You said casually, Well, I looked at my name and how it appeared in them, as does everyone. No, everyone isn't worried about their names being in the Epstein files. I know he was your neighbor. That was a coincidence. But please disclose everything that's relevant here so that we have a chance to work together and move on.
To the best of my memory, I met him when he moved next door to me, and I met him 2 other times in 14 years, none within 6 years of that first meeting, and then a year and a half later, and none thereafter. And in the presence of my wife, and as Senator Van Hollen said, under no circumstance.
By the way, the lady sitting to Howard's left, nodding, is his wife. And she's nodding, saying, yep, that's what really happened.
Is there a single word that I've done anything remotely wrong in any possible regard? I did not have anything you could call a relationship, anything you could call an acquaintance. I literally met him 3 times over 14 years with widespread in between. That's all I can remember. That's all there is in the documents. I didn't look through the documents with any fear whatsoever because I know and my wife knows that I have done absolutely nothing wrong in any possible regard.
Thank you for answering our questions.
There are emails with or about the Rothschilds, one of the most famous and richest families in the world. There are also...
All right, this is Catherine Herridge, and she's talking about some of this stuff involving the Rothschilds. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but if you have ever done any investigating on your own into this very, very storied family, you will find out some very disturbing things that the media never talked about. In fact, I included this piece because as everybody's screaming about Epstein, I want you to keep that name in mind. And I want you to realize how little the media is even going to touch the name Rothschild. In fact, me saying it puts myself in trouble here because I don't know. They are so friggin' powerful over everything that I guarantee you will not hear the media say that word. They will not mention that family, that history of that family and what they've done and who they've done it to. So you got a little homework right now to go look on the dark side of what the Rothschilds have been involved with.
Audio recordings with a former Israeli Prime Minister, Ehud Barak. Epstein says to him, make a list of who owes you favors.
Who has IOUs to you? Is that out of the people in the past who you think you're close to? This person owes me a favor. This person owes me his life.
And there are pictures of politicians, in one case, a British politician in his underwear. Looking at these records, does it look like Jeffrey Epstein was engaged in an intelligence collection operation?
I think there's no doubt. I think the totality of circumstances, one, show that he was connected to people that are way above a normal individual that may be trafficking women or drugs. That's the first and foremost. Because he didn't just go after a famous person. He went after people, or he had connections to people that had connections to national security.
I don't know if you guys can see what's on the screen, but the paragraph, well, actually both paragraphs, they list some names there. First one is Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz. And it goes on and it talks, believe Dershowitz was co-opted by Mossad in their mission. And it goes on. This is so deep, but you're not going to hear the media talk about any of the names you're seeing. They will not. They best not be talking about Mossad because they won't wake up tomorrow. They better not talk about the Rothschilds. These are guardrails, third rails that they will, Trump. Hey, so can you tell us about the involvement of the Rothschilds? I don't know what you're talking about. Can you tell us anything? Was Mossad involved? Oh, getting hot in here. No. The only thing you want to hear that they're going to talk about is Trump.
Security or huge technological advances. An intel operation would greatly benefit and be able to not only understand what other world leaders are doing, but be able to influence what they're doing.
A lot of these famous, influential people are still alive. How would you, as a federal investigator, probe whether there are crimes that can still be prosecuted?
In this case, when the United States is dealing with other nations on a global national security scale, I think that myself as an investigator, I would not be able to lead this investigation. I just would not be able to say that this is a crime, we need to go after this individual.
They covered their tracks so well. It is impossible, basically, to even get an arrest, much less a conviction. And I don't think they want arrests or convictions, because as that breadcrumb continues, those breadcrumbs are going to lead to people who probably aren't here anymore and to bigger names. And these bigger names are worldwide. And everybody says, oh, let's just take them all down. Doesn't matter who it is. I completely agree. But at the same time, what we would see is people disappearing. Maybe that's why this is on 24/7. Maybe that's why everything right now is about the Guthries. Are we being told something? Is this a soft disclosure? I don't know. But all I know is what I've seen, what I've read personally, what people I know have read personally, how deep the tentacles on this thing goes. And we are looking at a powder keg of international proportions that maybe needs to be blown up. But I don't know if you're ready for it to be blown up. I don't know what the Rothschilds can do if things blow up. These people have their hands in everything. Stuff people just take for granted. One day waking up and all of a sudden you got no lights, no power. Forget your internet. You can't go to your bank. It's off. I really think people need to think this through, because it's not Trump. It's not even Epstein. He's telling you, well, there's other people. There's more. It's deep. It's decades and decades, if not 100 years of people having their fingers into tentacles that run this country.
So high, and these people, this is not a conspiracy. You look at the list of these people. There is no way that an investigator in the FBI or just an attorney in the DOJ could say, yes, a crime is here, let's go after him. This has huge political ramifications and global ramifications, and that is way above a typical criminal and way above the decisions that even a supervisor in the FBI would make.
Welcome. I believe...
You know, what's really interesting with this is, imagine if the Democrats got what they wanted. Imagine if Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, they just said, you know what, Tulsi Gabbard, screw it. Here's everything. I don't think people could handle it. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure people can't handle it. I'm pretty sure, like I said, if your lights went off and you couldn't access your bank and you couldn't pump gas and the economy came to a screeching halt and you can't get food, what would you do and who would you blame if your kids can't eat and you can't buy anything? You think I'm being far-fetched? Like I said, go do your homework and figure out who the people are that may be behind this. And way beyond Epstein, because Epstein was controlled as well. He wasn't the one getting away with it. Global participants would have eliminated him. He was there to facilitate something they wanted. If he was no longer useful, he wouldn't have been there. I need people to begin thinking much bigger.
Maxwell's attorney told everyone beforehand she wasn't going to say a word. What options does the committee have in that case?
Well, for her, nothing, ma'am. I was the one that called it.
made the original motion to subpoena her. I think her attorney's advising her, as her attorney should. You know, she'll get clemency and she'll spill the beans, and I don't know. I don't see that happening. I see maybe she gets out early on good behavior and does a humongous book deal and probably ends up committing suicide by getting shot in the back of the head 5 times. Because this thing goes very deep, and the people involved in it are very powerful.
That is Representative Tim Burchett, who we've had on the show here a couple times. And the guy seems to be a complete straight shooter. And he's like, I've looked, I've dug, and yeah, she'll end up getting popped in the head. She'll never see it coming. So the media right now is pushing something that I don't think they really, truly want to come out. I think they're thinking if we push it just enough, people will start blaming Trump, and the influencers and panicans and people can, they can somewhat influence the midterms. I was wrong. Obama lost the midterms in 2010. And if we could influence that, then we can worry about taking over the communism and all this stuff. But we just want to push it enough to get people upset that they won't vote or won't vote MAGA. We'll destroy MAGA. But we don't want to go all the way. See, that's the other problem. We just want to take this just close enough where we can stain Trump and MAGA and divide you. And you demand the truth, but you ain't ever going to get it. You're never going to see anybody get arrested. You're never going to see anybody get convicted. These women who signed NDAs and they can't do anything, they're full of it. Elon Musk put the golden chip out there and said, don't worry about it. You get sued, I'll pay it. So there is no reason for these women not to talk. None. They did another press conference this morning with Chuck Schumer. Oh, yeah, it's got to come out. Somebody's got to tell it. You tell it. No, you won't tell it because it's not the money you're worried about. You're worried about taking 2 to the back of the head. It is dangerous. It is incomprehensible to most people to think what's happened. Think about this for a second. If they think that they can somehow stain you because you took a picture with Epstein, if they think that they somehow can diminish you by saying you had lunch on the island, what do you think is going to happen when they bring out pictures and so, is this you doing what we think you're doing? But I doubt you're even going to see that. They're not that stupid. Even when Hillary and Bill come in for their depositions, they're not going to do it then. I know everybody may be drooling and thinking, oh, this is going to be it. Watch what happens. No one's going to say, what's going on here in this pool with you and this blacked out face here? What was going on? I bet you they don't go there. And if they do, you're probably going to see Bill say, I take the 5th. Hillary's talking a big game on X right now, but yeah, televise it. She's just going to go in and say whatever she wants, but she's not going to give up the goods. She's going to attack Trump. Unfortunately, this entire thing is probably too big for most people to understand. And it's easy for people to say you're a pedo protector and everything else because they've got nothing to lose, including their lives. They're insignificant. They mean anything. They're getting paid for clicks and likes. If they lose a click, they get banned or whatever. That's the kind of stuff they'll, no big deal. I'll create another fake profile and I'll call you guys pedo protectors again. But there's a reason why Obama, Biden, Bush, Trump, Bill Barr, Loretta Lynch, just keep the names going. Nobody, knowing this has gone on since 2006. How about the Palm Beach Police Department? When they got called, what did you guys find? Oh, by the way, didn't they knock down the whole island or something? The whole thing with Diddy. Quiet. This is really, really deep stuff.
Wow, that is that is sort of shocking to even hear that. But yeah, it was a pretty messed up group of people that were doing these things, and no telling. The Clintons are set to give their depositions.
And I'm still.
Go ahead.
I'm still one of those that believes Epstein didn't kill himself, ma'am. I just don't think he did.
Bigger question. I would have asked Tim. Ashley, if you get Tim back on, the bigger question I want to ask is Epstein dead? Is all of this, is Epstein even dead? If you don't believe he didn't kill himself, next question I would have asked was, do you think he's even dead? And I know even thinking that, people are like, well, what are you talking about, Barry? He's got to be dead.
Well, Clinton's coming in. They'll give their depositions, we think. Do you know if they're going to plead the fifth? Have they hinted at anything?
No, ma'am, but there's a reason that they're not in prison, and the reason that he was in the White House for 2 terms and she was Secretary of State, because they are very slippery and they're very smart, and I think they're an evil pair. I think she's probably the brains behind the operation, but I don't think we'll get much on them. I know a lot of people are wanting us to get them, and it'll be great clickbait, I'm sure, but I think when it comes down to it, they'll either bail or they won't answer very many questions and be very evasive and be very smug, because in this world there are 2 forms of justice. Those like the Clintons and for the rest of us. And unfortunately, I don't see them being, everybody says, we'll put them in handcuffs, all this stuff, all that's talk. The law's got to back you up on it. And we got to define what those laws were that they broke, and Congress cannot send somebody to jail.
You keep hearing this over and over, and eventually you're going to realize, oh, so these people are just going to skate. Unfortunately, maybe it's just, we have to leave it in God's hand, let him deal with these people. But they're shrewd, they're smart, they knew how to set things up. And the reason why they knew how to set things up is they've been doing it for God knows how long. You'd be pretty good at something if you got a 50-year head start on doing it. And I know that doesn't set well with anybody, doesn't set well with me. And people say, now Ilhan Omar, she going to get away with insider trading, and this person's going to get away with it. Maybe. They know how to do it. Think about this for a second. They knew how to cheat to win an election, knowing full well there was nothing in the Constitution or any law written that says, well, you can't cheat an election. I want to know who the person was who researched it and went, hey, man, there's nothing here. There's no recourse. You can't do anything if you cheat an election and get certified. There's no reversal. What do you mean? Show me that. Look, there's nothing here. As long as we get to, what is it, January 12th, whatever it is they certify. Oh, she's coming up. We'll talk about this in a little bit.
And coming here in the middle of the day, I apologize for the delay. I was once again with the president. He and I were both reviewing the newly released surveillance footage from FBI in the Savannah Guthrie case on just this heartbreaking situation with respect to her mother. The president encourages any American across the country with any knowledge of this suspect to please call the FBI, who continue to assist state and local authorities who are leading this investigation on the ground. And once again, I will reiterate that the prayers of this entire White House are with Savannah and her family at this time. And we hope this person is found soon and that her mother is brought home safely. President Trump has a very busy week ahead, so I will begin with some scheduling announcements today. Tomorrow here at the White House, the president will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a bilateral meeting. The remainder of the week will be focused on energy and deregulation. Tomorrow afternoon, the president will hold an event in the East Room to tout clean, beautiful coal as America's most reliable and affordable energy source, especially during periods of peak demand, just as we saw during this most recent winter storm, which impacted hundreds of millions of Americans. The president will discuss how clean, beautiful coal is not only keeping the lights on in our country, but also driving down the cost of electricity across the country as well. Additionally, on Thursday, President Trump will be joined by Administrator Lee Zeldin to formalize the rescission of the 2009 Obama-era endangerment finding. This will be the largest deregulatory action in American history, and it will save the American people $1.3 trillion in crushing regulations. The bulk of the savings will stem from reduced costs for new vehicles, with the EPA projecting average per vehicle savings of more than $2,400 for popular light-duty cars, SUVs, and trucks. This is just one more way this administration is working to make life more affordable for everyday Americans. Overall, these groundbreaking actions from President Trump will drive larger economic growth, create thousands of good-paying jobs, expand manufacturing, increase consumer choice, and improve affordability for millions of families and businesses. Finally, on Friday, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will travel to Fort Bragg in the great state of North Carolina to meet with military families and the heroic members of our special forces who carried out the successful Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela and helped bring narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro to justice. I know the President and First Lady are both greatly looking forward to this visit. Also, the First Lady will celebrate Valentine's Day at the Children's Inn at the National Institute of Health tomorrow, with children, families, and NIH staff involved in clinical trials. In other news this week, thanks to President Trump signing the largest middle-class tax cut in history, this is shaping up to be the biggest tax refund season ever, and we are in it now. President Trump and Republicans fundamentally believe that Americans deserve to keep more of their hard-earned money, not less, which is why he fought so hard to deliver this long overdue relief. From no tax on tips, overtime, or Social Security to auto loan interest deductions on new American-made vehicles, plus increases to the standard deduction in child tax credit, more money is flowing back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. We're already hearing from everyday Americans across the country who are reporting substantial tax savings thanks to the Working Families Tax Cut, which every single Democrat in Congress voted against. AMAC, which represents millions of Americans, has heard directly from more than their 1,000 members already about how the Trump tax cuts are easing cost of living concerns. I wanted to share a few of those powerful responses with you today. This one comes from Dean and Wendy in Wisconsin, who says, quote, "Instead of paying out $3,700 last year, we got back $2,500 in refunds this year. This is huge for our family." Steve from California said, quote, "The new senior citizen deduction is a tremendous relief and has given us peace of mind and the freedom to truly enjoy the retirement years we worked so hard for." Eric from Nevada said, "As a senior, no tax on Social Security helps me tremendously. The no tax on tips helps my daughter-in-law as a waitress. The no tax on overtime helps my son, who works constantly. Our family savings from the One Big Beautiful Bill could total even more than $5,000. We love the Trump tax cuts." These are just a few positive examples of the everyday Americans that President Trump's tax cuts are uplifting. We'd love to hear more from the American people across the country who are benefiting from the Working Families tax cuts. The White House is also pleased to share that parents across the country can now officially apply to open a Trump account for their child. In order to apply, parents can visit trumpaccounts.gov and fill out the IRS form 4547. These Trump accounts are special investment accounts aimed at providing American children with a jump start on building wealth for life. They have all the tax advantages as a traditional IRA account, but are specifically tailored to build wealth the moment a child is born. Thanks to President Trump, every child born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028 is eligible to receive $1,000 from the U.S. Treasury to fund their account. Parents, guardians, and even nonprofits can then contribute up to $5,000 per year. Employers can also contribute up to $2,500 per year per employee. President Trump believes there is no better investment than investing in our nation's children. If you are a parent who maximizes contributions to your child's Trump account, its projected value could reach nearly $1.1 million by the time your child turns 28 years old, based on average historical stock market returns. Safe to say, the Trump accounts will give a substantial head start to position the next generation for a brighter future. And with the stock market exploding under President Trump's pro-growth policies, there has never been a better time to sign up for an investment account like this. The Dow Jones just shattered 50,000 for the first time ever on Friday, and the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ continue smashing record after record. So with President Trump in charge, Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming once again, and these new Trump accounts for America's kids will boom too. So with that, once again, every parent should go to trumpaccounts.gov today, and I'm going to put it on my own personal to-do list to sign up for one as well. With that, I will take your questions. Karoline Downey from the National Review is here. Thank you for being here, and why don't you kick us off?
Thank you for having me. On the criticism that immigration enforcement has become arbitrary or not particularly prioritizing, Democrats have been circulating this statistic that only 14% of illegal aliens arrested under this administration are violent criminals, but we know that in deep blue cities with progressive district attorneys, it's common to plead down serious violent crimes into less serious offenses, which could be distorting those numbers. So given that backdrop, does the administration still stand by the messaging that you're targeting the worst of the worst, and does this prevailing narrative tell the whole story?
Well, thank you for bringing this up, Karoline. I've seen this CBS report floating around. There's a lot of liberal talking heads and pundits and Democrat elected politicians who think that this single story and these statistics and the way they are painted is somehow a shot at this administration. It is not, and let me correct the record. Number one, the Trump administration has been clear from day one that any illegal alien present in this country is subject to deportation. However, the priority, of course, is going after the convicted criminals, the worst of the worst, the murderers, the pedophiles, the rapists in this country. Interestingly, in the CBS story, what the Democrat talking heads on television are not saying is this line. Nearly 60% of ICE arrestees over the past year had criminal charges or convictions. And among that population, the majority of the criminal charges or convictions are for nonviolent crimes. Oh, well, what are nonviolent crimes, you ask? This has coincided with what DHS has been saying all along, that approximately 70% of illegal aliens arrested under President Trump have pending criminal charges and or prior convictions. And these so-called nonviolent crimes, drug trafficking, distribution of child porn, burglary, fraud, DUI, embezzlement, solicitation of a minor, and human smuggling, just to name a few. So just because a crime is not violent in nature doesn't mean that crime is victimless. And I can guarantee every single person who is out there on television right now pointing to these statistics that were taken out of context by CBS News would not want an illegal alien convicted of the distribution of child porn or fraud or DUI living in your community. So the Trump administration will continue our focus on deporting all illegal aliens present in our country with a focus on the worst of the worst criminals. Thank you for being here. Gabe.
Karoline, thank you. And thank you for the update on our colleague Savannah Guthrie's mother. Is there anything more you can share? You said the president was reviewing that surveillance footage. What was his initial reaction when seeing those disturbing images? And does he believe that that suspect acted alone?
I haven't talked to him specifically about the second point on whether the suspect acted alone or not, so I don't want to weigh in on the president's thinking on that. His initial reaction, of course, as all Americans, is just pure disgust. And again, it's heartbreaking to see now this footage really bring to life a story we've all been reading about. And again, we're just praying for the safety of Nancy Guthrie and that she will return home soon. And the president directed me to please encourage all Americans with any information to call the FBI. And we hope that this case will come to a positive resolution as soon as possible.
We, of course, have a lot to talk about in a completely separate topic. I was hoping you can clarify something that's come up over the last several days, again, regarding a separate topic, the Epstein files. According to newly released files, the president had a conversation with the Palm Beach police chief in the early 2000s, according to the police chief in 2019. The president has gone on record before, and he's told reporters that he said that that he had no idea about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. During this conversation with the police chief, however, he did say, according to this recounting of it, that thank goodness you're stopping him. He also called Ghislaine Maxwell evil. So my two questions are, did that conversation with the Palm Beach police chief happen? And can you explain the discrepancy?
What I will say is that the president has always remained consistent and that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club at Mar-a-Lago because, frankly, Jeffrey Epstein was a creep. And unlike many other people who are named in these files, President Trump cut off his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and was honest and transparent about that for years and years. And so I think what the president has said all along has always remained true. And the release of more than 3 million documents related to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous, disgusting crimes just shows the level of transparency that this president and administration has committed to in bringing these files to light.
But did he call the chief in 2006? Caroline, did he call the chief?
Look, it was a phone call that may or may not have happened in 2006. I don't know the answer to that question. What I'm telling you is that what President Trump has always said is that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club because Jeffrey Epstein was a creep, and that remains true. And this call, if it did happen, corroborates exactly what President Trump has said from the beginning. And I'm sure many of you, when you read that alleged FBI report, probably thought to yourself, wow, this really cracks our narrative that we've been trying to push about this president for many years. So we're moving on from that. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to ask you about the SAVE Act. NBC reported that there's some hesitation among House Republicans on adding absentee ballot restrictions into the SAVE Act. Can you explain what the hesitation is among House Republicans and also just provide a status of negotiations with Congress on the legislation?
Sure. I can't speak for House Republicans, Reagan. I can obviously speak for the president, who is quite possibly the strongest supporter of the Save America Act, which, as you know, would require proof of citizenship to register to vote. It would require proof of identification, a photo identification before casting a ballot. And it would also ensure that there are exceptions made. I think that's what you're alluding to with these conversations with House Republicans for reasonable requests, of course, for our military, for individuals who are disabled and cannot make it to the polls. Those are reasonable, common sense things that I believe House Republicans are discussing amongst themselves. But as for the president, he's been very clear. He wants House Republicans and Democrats, too, if they were politically wise, to pass this legislation, for the Senate to pass it, to send it to the president's desk so it can be signed into law.
Follow-up. I'm wondering when the last time the president spoke to Leader Thune was and if he discussed using the standing filibuster to pass legislation.
The president has given his position on the standing filibuster. As for his most recent conversation with Leader Thune, frankly, I'm not sure. I do know they speak very frequently. The president's in constant communication with both Leader Thune and the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. Stephen, I see we switched up our seating chart. Your direct line of sight now. Congratulations.
Thank you to the Correspondents Association for recognizing the New York Post's reach. I've got two questions for you, one about the Guthrie case and then another about infrastructure. On the Guthrie case, does President Trump have a warning to the culprits here about what would happen to them, what federal consequences they would face if they do not release Nancy Guthrie unharmed?
I think anyone who was involved in this depraved crime, this abduction, of course, we want to be seen held to the fullest extent of the law possible.
And on infrastructure, can you explain why President Trump asked Chuck Schumer to help him rename Penn Station and Dulles Airport after himself? Why is he interested in having his name on those two buildings? And why are the Gateway Tunnel funds the proper point of pressure to get that to happen?
To your first question about the renaming, why not? It was something the president floated in his conversation with Chuck Schumer. As for the funding, the president has addressed that separately himself. Danny.
Thanks. Today, the vice president's account posted and then deleted a tweet about the Armenian genocide. And then last week, President Trump's Truth Social account posted and then deleted a racist video about the Obamas. And the White House again blamed that on a staffer. I wanted to ask you, does the White House have a social media problem at the moment? Do you have an auto-posting problem that's leading to these mistakes?
No. As for the Armenian tweet that you're referring to, I would just refer you back to the White House's message that was issued on Armenian Remembrance Day, and there's been no change of policy at this time. Mary?
Thanks, Caroline. When the president goes to Beijing in the spring, does he have plans to try and advocate on behalf of Jimmy Lai, who was just sentenced to 20 years yesterday?
This is something I've heard the president advocate for both publicly and privately. I had the honor of being in that meeting with President Trump and President Xi in South Korea that took place, and this was brought up by the president himself. It is important to him, and he looks forward to visiting China in April. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. So some Republican lawmakers from Nebraska have said they're worried that the Argentinian beef executive order will sideline some American ranchers. How will the Trump administration make sure prices go down for consumers without harming those ranchers?
Of course. Well, both things can happen at the same time. That's the president's belief. He wants to see prices come down. In fact, I just overheard him on the phone with Secretary Rollins. They were talking about something different, but he's always saying we got to make sure that prices continue to come down. As you know, Secretary Rollins successfully did that with respect to egg prices. Beef prices are coming down slightly, and the president wants to see that continue. He believes that a minor import to the country with cattle might be a short-term solution with respect to bringing down prices. But of course, protecting our American cattle and rancher industry is a priority for the president, and he's in touch with those stakeholders. We've had them here at the White House a few times in recent months to discuss this issue directly. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Yesterday, the president on social media threatened to block the new Gordie Howe Bridge, which would connect Detroit to Canada. This is a bridge that was fully paid for by Canada. It used American labor to construct it. It used American steel to construct that bridge. The president in 2017 was actually in favor of this bridge, part of a joint statement that he put out when he met with the Canadian Prime Minister. Why has the president changed his mind as it relates to this bridge?
I think the president was very clear and direct in his truth, John, but just to reiterate, the fact that Canada will control what crosses the Gordie Howe Bridge and owns the land on both sides is unacceptable to the president. It's also unacceptable that more of this bridge isn't being built with more American-made materials, even more so than what President Barack Obama committed to with the Canadians at the time, at the start of the project. He also believes that the U.S. should own at least half of the bridge, have shared authority over what passes across it, and participate in the economic benefits generated by its use. This is just another example of President Trump putting America's interests first, and so he made that very clear in his call with Prime Minister Carney earlier today. Phil.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem just posted a photo of herself signing the last contract for steel to build a border wall between Laredo, Del Rio, and Big Bend, Texas, among reports that construction had stalled. Is the president satisfied with the pace of construction?
The president wants to make sure that the full border wall is built as quickly as possible, of course. I know this is a priority for him dating back to 2016, and so absolutely he wants to ensure that the border wall is built under budget and ahead of schedule is how President Trump likes to view building projects, and that includes the border wall.
Satisfied with the pace of construction thus far?
I think the president is never satisfied. He always wants to ensure that things are moving along as quickly as possible, but I know Secretary Noem is on it, and she's doing a great job.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you.
Charlie.
On the Nancy Guthrie case, is the president satisfied with the federal and local investigation so far? And has there been any more contact from the White House or the president with the family?
I don't think anybody will be satisfied until this case is brought to a close and until Nancy Guthrie is returned home safely with her loved ones.
And about the White House contacts, has the president contacted the family since?
Not since that initial phone call. Sure. Tamara.
Thank you. The National Governors Association is removing a meeting with President Trump from his agenda because only Republicans were invited. Is the White House reconsidering inviting Democrats, or do you think Republicans are still going to show up? Like, where does that stand now?
No, look, I just spoke with the president about this. It is a dinner at the White House. It's the people's house. It's also the president's home, and so he can invite whomever he wants to dinners and events here at the White House. I believe Governor Moore was invited last year, and he did not show up to the dinner last year. Nobody reported on it. But again, the president has the discretion to invite whomever he wants to the White House, and he welcomes all those who received an invitation to come. And if they don't want to, that's their loss.
And on Ghislaine Maxwell, is the president going to rule out a pardon for her in her testimony, deposition yesterday? Her legal team seemed to be making a case, again, for a pardon from the president.
Again, this is not something I've discussed with the president recently because, frankly, it's not a priority. He's focused on many of the issues that the American people are dealing with and providing solutions to those issues. So I haven't spoken with him recently. Last time we did speak about it, he said it's not something he's considering or thinking about.
Caroline.
Go ahead, Bloomberg.
Thanks, Caroline. Secretary Litnick today was testifying on the Hill, and he said that he had visited Epstein's Island in 2012 with his wife and children, and that's after he said that he had cut ties with Epstein, and Justice Department documents show that he was in contact with Epstein through 2018 over messages. So does the White House stand behind Secretary Litnick right now, or given what he has said today, has there been any shift in how the White House is viewing Secretary Litnick's performance?
No, Secretary Litnick remains a very important member of President Trump's team, and the president fully supports the secretary. I will just point out that there are a lot of wins in the news this week that people in this room have not asked about because you continue to ask questions about the same subject, so let me point them out for you. Again, on Friday, the Dow shattered 50,000 for the first time ever. This week, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons came out in opposition to gender mutilation surgeries for children. They are the first major medical group to do so. A federal appeals court today, nobody asked about that, just upheld the Trump administration's policy of detaining illegal aliens, validating the strong measures that have driven illegal crossings to historic lows, and sent a crystal clear message that under President Trump, if you enter the country illegally, you will be detained and removed. The murder rate, again, not a single question about this, has plunged to a 125-year low as crime falls across the board, thanks to President Trump's crime crackdown. We also saw this week national median rents have fallen to a 4-year low following 6 consecutive monthly declines, and mortgage affordability has surged to a 4-year high. Home ownership is the core foundation principle of the American dream, and I will repeat that mortgage affordability this week surged to a 4-year high, but not a single of mention of that in this briefing room today. And again, this came out last Friday, but for an unprecedented 9th straight month, there were 0 illegal border crossings at the southern border. So we're going to get back to business. The president is very busy today, and you will see him all tomorrow at the event in the East Room touting his administration's energy policy. Thank you.
That's it, huh? Wow. I had a 2:30 interview scheduled, and Ashley, if you want to see if she can get back on, I didn't know she was going to talk for 20 minutes and tell these people to pound sand, but that's exactly what she did. In a very short, curt, middle finger type press conference, Karoline Leavitt basically just came out and told these people to buzz off. I mean, literally, she was a half hour late, so that went just a wow. Wow, she cut that short. All right, we're going to see if we can get our interview back for 2:30 if she's available. If not, we'll have to do it tomorrow. Give Ashley and I a second to see if we can't make this, put this together.
back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
This is a local person. And so as you start thinking about the reward and what that reward can do, there's somebody in the Tucson area that's, if you want to make a quick $50,000, this is how to do it. Somebody in the viewing area between the stations in Tucson, they have a good idea who this person is. The fact that there's not 2 or 3 there and just a solo operator, again, you can't tell. It looks solo operator. Somebody could be driving the car, but somebody has knowledge of this crime. Somebody knows, and it's just overcoming that. That's why most cases get done, especially cases like this. It's data combined with potentially somebody flipping and saying, hey, I'll either do it because it's the right thing to do or I'll do it for the money. Either way, as a detective, I don't care. Just give me the information. Let's make an arrest.
All right, Morgan, thank you for your expertise. Really appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, now's the time to call in either of those tip lines if you see anything that makes you think you might know who this is. Let's bring in our former FBI investigator, Bill Daly, is joining us now. Bill, you've had a chance to take in all of this since we last spoke. What strikes?
All right, so that's what's happening right now with Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy Guthrie, at this point. They now have a picture. Somehow they just got this picture today, this video, which you can't really tell who this person is. Maybe they've got some forensics or something like that. All right, while I'm waiting to hear if our interview can make it back on here for 2:30, let me continue with the videos I have put together.
Oddly enough, a lot of congressmen probably should be in jail. But the truth is that we're not going to, I don't think it'll boil down to anything, and that's going to make a lot of people mad, but I believe that's the truth.
Meanwhile, under the Biden administration, Louisiana was tasked to spend more than $1.3 billion to do exactly what it's doing now for under $500 million. That means in Louisiana alone, the American taxpayers saved more than $800 million, delivering better economic results, all while advancing the same performance standards that you have set. We are delivering for the state of Louisiana and all American taxpayers. Under the benefit of the bargain reforms, Louisiana reopened its bidding competition, embraced technology neutrality, and drove costs down dramatically.
You see, I think that's why Karoline Leavitt walked off. Howard Lutnick, once it got to the point in this hearing where he was able to talk about what's actually happening, when people aren't screaming about, did you have a steak with Epstein? Is the winning that's actually happening. She had to read off. She's like, you guys even asked me any questions about what's going on in the country. You represent the national media, and all you could talk about was, did the intern who posted the 8 meme get fired? What? Do you know if you guys know how to use auto posting correctly? What? Do you know if in 2006 there was actually a phone? How old is Karoline Leavitt? 28? So you're asking her if she knew something when she was 8? If she looked into it? You guys got to learn, even with the trolls that come in here, they're here to try and knock you off your game. They're trying to keep you from focusing on what's really important. And Howard Lutnick, I loved how he pulled it back and actually got into answering some of the questions.
The Biden administration fiber mandate, the cost to serve a single house in Louisiana was $120,000 of fiber to connect one single house. Today, the highest cost location in the state of Louisiana is closer to $7,000, with an average cost of $4,000. And they're doing this all while achieving universal coverage. This is the difference between a program designed around waste and abuse and a program designed around value. And
you see, the problem is most Americans that follow this news crap don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear that right now the stock market is breaking another record, because most people don't even know how the stock market affects them. And they think if they're not buying stock, it has nothing to do with me. That's a messaging issue. They need to tell people how, as long as these companies are doing well, how it affects their lives. But the messaging doesn't get there. And they watch the gold and silver market. They don't understand. Doesn't matter to me. And all they're getting on X is just complete negative BS. They're being told that, they're being told Biden could win today. Oh, you think I'm lying? Think I'm lying. Let me show you this. And I didn't want to really get into this because I don't like denigrating anybody. So I'm just going to read exactly what was posted. And I'll let you take it from there. I'm not going to cast aspersions on the person. But this was posted. If an election were held today between Trump and Biden, Biden would win. There are a million valid arguments you can make that explain why that's retarded, and I would agree with most of them, but it doesn't change the fact that Biden would win. Biden couldn't even finish his own run for president. The actual people in charge of nominating him said, "You gotta go, bro. You're pooping your diapers and you can't talk. We got to get rid of you." And so you're telling me the people who didn't want him as president before are now saying, "Well, we made a mistake. It should have been Kamala. We should have kept Biden in there and had him do the next debate as well." And you think that would have made a difference? I don't even get what's going on in polling. Polling. So I'm gonna go to this next story, and if I may have to jump, if our interview can still make it, Ashley's gonna let me know. But a story came out today that just blew my mind that people were talking about it, and I'm like, you guys, you got to be more, you got to be better than this. Everything I'm seeing every single day is like, man, they are doing everything to gaslight the American public. Every single thing that's being put out by pollsters and the media is to try and get you to believe, and for lack of a better word, bullshit. And they phrase it in certain ways, and it makes people think certain things. And I don't know how to elevate people. I don't know how to elevate the trolls. They don't even want to listen. But when you get a story like this, and this story, let me just go ahead and pull it down. This was all over today. Everybody was talking about it, and they were saying that American optimism slumps to record low. That people here in America have dropped to they're just so upset. The optimism has dropped to a record low. And I'm going to tell you, there are basically two types of people in America. And those two types of people basically determine how these polls are made up. And these two types of people aren't necessarily Democrat or Republican. They're not MAGA versus communist. Well, kind of. Those two types of people are people who participate and create, and those who simply take. Makers versus takers. I don't know how much Gallup spent on this poll, but I could tell you right now, if you do a poll that talks about optimism in the country, it's going to look really bad. The takers currently have a bigger volume and emotion than the makers. What has happened in the last 13 months since President Trump has taken office? You've seen the takers lose a lot of what they were taking. Welfare, down. SNAP, down. Newcomers, get out. Department of Education, that money, shredded. USAID, shredded. And I could go on and on and on as well as you could. So all of those people who are under that umbrella of taking are pissed off. To them, the world has ended. And part of the reason is they don't know how to make. They've never been taught how to make. They've been schooled in how to take. They've been schooled as to make you pay for what they take. And what President Trump has done is say, nah, guess what? You, if you're possible, if you have the viability to stand on your own 2 feet, you got to get your ass out there and make. You're no longer going to sit home, eat bonbons, and take. So I would expect a poll on optimism to say, this really sucks. The problem I'm having is, why'd you even run the poll? You know, every single one of you right now, no doubt, 100% of you said, I could ask, you remember the first time you went on a diet? Did you like it? This sucks. I can't have this cake. I can't eat this blue. Oh, no. What's your optimism on this diet? It sucks. Because you want that cake. I wanted that blueberry muffin. If somebody said, hey, what do you think about this new diet? Man, it sucks. Many of you may have experienced divorce, felt the low of divorce. And if someone had come up to you and said, you know what do you think about men or women right now? You're like, they suck. Maybe now's not the time to talk to people who have had the Band-Aid pulled off. Because it's that scab is a little raw right now. Those of you who have been through divorce, those of you who have been on diet after diet after diet. If someone asks you right then and there, you don't like it. Now imagine the same thing with American optimism. Of course, everything in your world right now has been turned upside down, and he's not done yet. Just looking at Ashley's text. So let's look at this poll. So when you see these kind of things, as I've shown you with other pollsters, if you know what I mean, why these things are put out and who they're talking to. So this poll by Gallup, American optimism slumps to record low, is the headline. What's the subheadline? Democrat and Hispanics report the greatest drop since Trump was elected. You could stop right there. Most people aren't going to read the article. They're going to, American optimism is slumping very low. It's a record low because of Democrats and Hispanics since 2024. Isn't that the answer? I mean, do you have to scroll further when you're reading that, okay, Democrats are upset. No shit, Sherlock. Hispanics, probably the ones who aren't supposed to be here. No shit, Sherlock. Since 2024. Oh, so President Trump gets in, and you're telling me Democrats don't have any optimism. And the sky is blue and water is wet. That's what you're saying. So let's look at this article so you guys can, laugh along with me. The percentage of U.S. adults who anticipate high-quality lives in 5 years declined from 59.2% in 2025, the lowest level since measurements began nearly 2 decades ago. Since 2020, future life ratings have fallen a total of 9.1 percentage points, projecting to an estimated 24.5 million fewer people who are optimistic about the future now versus then. Most of the decline occurred between 2021 and 2023. Wait a second. You buried that? You're telling us people are feeling bad, but most of the badness happened in 2021 and 2023. Then what the hell are we talking about? And it continues. But the ratings dropped 3.5 in the last year. Okay. Americans' ratings of their current lives have also declined since rebounding in 2021, but not as steady as their future life ratings. And current life ratings are not at a low point. That occurred in 2020. They're in the first year of the, you know what? And it shows this graph here. Anticipated life in 5 years slumps to record low in 2025. And people are all bummed out. My life sucks. Trump's president. And the results are part of a national poll, well-being index. In 2025, results are based on data collected over 4 quarterly measurements, yada, yada, yada. And then it gets down into here. Recent declines in future life ratings greatest among Democrats and Hispanic adults. Historically, Black adults, historically the most likely of the United States' 3 major ethnic groups to have a high volume, had the greatest erosion in optimism between 21 and 2024. We don't feel that bad anymore. Think about that. Black people, their bad time was during Biden. But now, Hispanics have a bigger drop in optimism did blacks in the past year. All 3 major political identity groups dropped about 5 percentage points in future life optimism. However, the group showed offering patterns of change the first year of President Donald Trump's second administration. Democrats tumbled 7.6 points in 2025, while independents only went down 1.5, and Republicans basically stayed the same. So what you just said is your entire drop is based upon Democrats being upset. Not my numbers. Your numbers. In fact, what you should have said up here in terms of your title should have said Democrat optimism slumps to record low. But when you don't read and go into the numbers and dig in, you don't know what these people are really saying. And so everybody's sharing this all over X, all over Facebook. Oh my God, people, their lives suck since Trump came. No, Democrats. Democrats. But you didn't say that in the title. And so it's meant to let everybody think that things are so bad. And Republicans are like, it's okay with us. Our life doesn't suck. You are involved right now. You are the recipient of a major gaslighting campaign on all fronts. Every single thing you see, the judges' rulings, the media, well, except when they're not showing Nancy Guthrie literally on a loop. You would think there's a hurricane coming through. That's all they're talking about. What are they hiding? Why are we all looking at Epstein, Epstein, Epstein? And if it's not Epstein, 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 it's Guthrie, Guthrie, Guthrie. There are no other news stories because they figured out this is what we can hide all the other stuff with. Because you're not you. I'm not going to call you lazy, but most people are inherently lazy. They're not going to look at this story and they're not going to dig way down, how many paragraphs, 4 or 5 paragraphs down to find out it's all the Democrats that are pissed off. And every single one of you, if they had started that and said, Democrats are mad, they don't think their lives are going to get better, each and every one of you would have went, yeah, I could understand that. I could definitely understand that. Water's wet. Democrats hate what's happening. The welfare system, the newcomers, boys not playing in girls' sports. We're not going to do the Transformer stuff anymore. Yeah, I could see lots of blue-haired nose ring people being upset. Their life sucks. I don't give a shit. And neither do you. But these people want to try and, they got nothing. Imagine a major agency like Gallup came out here and put out a study, an actual study, to tell you life sucks under Trump, and didn't tell you, it's Democrats. when it gets down here further, let's go in here. It says steep drop since 2024, and now they say it's among Democrats and Hispanic adults. We don't have to go any further because most of you are like, all right, so what? The only reason to even look at this kind of stuff is because you just need to understand when it gets posted, it's bullcrap. It's absolute, unadulterated, stinky, steamy bullcrap meant to drop you and push you off of your focus. Life doesn't suck. Was it 70 or 80% of you said that your family, friends, and stuff? Let me get the right number. 67, 60, 80, 94% of you said most of the people you're around don't even talk about Epstein. That's why I didn't want to have to talk. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Screw it. At this point, it's and I hate because then I'll get somebody to say, you don't care about the pedos? Can we just stop with that? Can we just forget about it and understand every single one of us cares about the pedos? Every single one of us wants these guys, whatever they did, to be strung up by their little toe and hang from it. We all want that. But at the same time, be a realist here. All the stuff in orchestration that you're seeing is complete hogwash. And I think the whole thing with Bad Bunny was a part of it as well. Because I think, and I'm just throwing out hypotheses at this point, of some of the stuff that I really think. I'm going to tell you more about these hypotheses in a second. Because, some of this stuff is really making me think. It's just not a matter of me talking. It's a matter of me thinking. But let me talk to you about chapter. Medicare is confusing. And as someone who turned 65 recently, I can confirm this. Keeping track of enrollment periods, understanding all your options, and making sure you're on the right plan takes too much time and energy. And between Medicare scams, corrupt agents, and bloated insurance companies, it's easy to make mistakes that can cost you thousands. That's why I'm happy I called the people at Chapter. They're actually honest and the only Medicare advisor that looks at every plan nationwide, and they can help save you an average of $1,100 a year. People are relieved when they talk to Chapter. I've had many people here in the Fanfare family reach out to them, and they find out, hey, these guys are pretty good. They work with you. They won't push you to buy a plan you don't want, and their support is completely free. One free 20-minute phone call is all it will take. So if you're turning 65 soon or have questions about your Medicare coverage, call them at 475-328-3545 to get the most out of Medicare. Most people wish they'd call sooner. And understand, these guys don't get paid commission. They get paid basically a salary. So they're not trying to push you into some crazy plan. I like that. I like people, even like my car dealers, when I go to, they get paid salaries. I know, you're not trying to do anything to push me into something. All right, so I'm going to take a break. And when I come back in 90 seconds, we are going to talk about what I think is happening right now. And bam.
Welcome back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
So I wanted to ask you, when you guys saw, maybe you guys didn't see it. This perhaps most of you probably didn't see it in terms of the Bad Bunny halftime show. And it would have outraged you, as it outraged many people, and the people in the media trying to tell you it's no big deal, it's just somebody dancing around. The Washington Post came out and said it was such a wholesome performance. And they can say that in the newspaper because they know that many people didn't watch it, especially people on the right. You didn't even see it. And they're saying, what's the big deal? It's wholesome. I don't define wholesome that way. And I think one of the reasons why I couldn't put into words how I was feeling. And one of my sheriff buddies sent me a post today that I'm going to read to you. That's really eye-opening, a little bit has some, expletives in it that I'll try to jump over. But once I show it to you, it's going to have some bad words. But it encapsulated what I've been feeling. It really speaks volumes to what I think is happening with the Epstein stuff and Bad Bunny and P. Diddy and all this stuff that's going on, that I think they're trying to do their best to normalize. So I want you to check this out and read this along with me. And I understand that some of it may seem a little, I don't say offensive. No one's trying to insult you. Raw. It sounds a little bit raw. Let's be adults for a second and digest the content, not so much the guy's or woman's style. And I think what was really interesting when I read this is I think some of you probably feel this way. All right, let's look at this. And it's written by somebody called L.H. Gray. And it says Super Bowl foreplay, primetime degeneracy. The Super Bowl wasn't entertainment, it was foreplay. Bad Bunny's hypersexualized, filth-spewing, Spanish-language grindfest, lyrics dripping with raw penetration fantasies, served up to 100 million living rooms, while Washington Post called it wholesome family values. It was the softener, the desensitization ritual, the calculated drip feed of depravity wrapped in a cultural expression. You heard that everywhere. So the masses learned to clap for their own moral lobotomy. Loved how he phrased that, or she. You watch the nation get psychologically prepped, instincts dulled, disgust response anesthetized, boundaries eroded under stadium lights and corporate applause. I'm going to stop there for a second because that was eloquent. You saw something, if you watched it, that made absolutely no sense. Even the language made no sense to many people who are Spanish. And all we were doing was being subject to depravity and telling us that our values as Americans don't matter anymore. We're gonna show you what America is really like, and we're gonna show it to you at the same time as we're dry humping other people, men and women. And we're just gonna put this out there to the masses. And as we put this out there to the masses, we're also gonna have all these people, these big companies paying us for it. Which they did. They paid tens of millions of dollars to be associated with what they did in that halftime performance. So let's continue with as he went here. Where is it? They flooded your retinas with simulated filth. They made you swallow it with beer and nachos and trained you to call it progress, which is all over the next day. Oh, we're progressing as a nation. We're not going to be like the 50s. But that was just the public warm-up. The real child harvest happens after the cameras die, when the stadiums empties, the private jets lift off, and the blacked-out mansions on isolated islands ignite their nocturnal sacraments. great writing. That's when the true predators feed. No spotlights, no sponsors, no Spanish lyrics to hide behind. Just the elite aristocracy, Hollywood's Speedo overlords, the Epstein alumni who never ever faced justice and probably never will. The Diddy level degenerates who trade flesh like crypto, unleashing the rituals they've perfected in the dark. Something like 1,000 private jets flew in for the game. The same 1,000 private jet owners who feel that climate change is real. The same 1,000 private jets from people who say capitalism sucks. Many, probably, I'm not going to say all, many of the same people who went back to their rented or leased places somewhere in California and did what they had to do. All the same as they were watching unfold on the field in front of them, and were gleeful that you were having to watch it as well, although some of you didn't watch it, obviously. They don't, and this is the one that got me, they don't need to sexualize children on television anymore. I was like, oh, I know where you're going. You've already been conditioned to accept the prelude. The Super Bowl did that work for them. They normalized the hypersexual, the boundaryless, the anything goes as long as it's diverse. Have you not been subject to that? Have you not been subject to anything goes because it means something in the world where we now need to be more diverse? You're not even supposed to question. Never mind, don't question men who dress up as women. Don't question men who dress up as women and do it in front of kids. These little showtime at libraries, don't even question it. That doesn't feel right. Oh, you're a bigot. You're a homophobe. But it doesn't feel right for my kids to be looking at a guy dressed as a woman prancing around. Too bad. It's diverse. Now the subconscious gate is wide effing open. Your protective revulsion, neutered. Your outrage meter, recalibrated to tolerate the intolerable. That's how real grooming scales. First, the primetime spectacle teaches you to look away, which many people did. Then the late night harvest reaps what was sown. Meaning just because we looked away, just because many on the right were like, I am not watching Bad Bunny, didn't mean other people looked away. It fed them. The carnal nature of what they saw is something they wanted to see. It titillated them. It really looked like a ritual. I don't know how people in the stands who didn't know what Bad Bunny was must have said, oh my God, what is this? He continues. They traffic kids in silence while you sleep off that halftime high, convinced the worst you saw was some reggaeton clown in a skirt. It wasn't. That was a distraction. The real sacrifice, the broken bodies, the shattered souls, the literal and metaphorical blood offerings to their godless power, happens in blackout rooms where no translation is needed and no apology will ever be offered. Brilliant. And the same media that gaslit you into calling Bad Bunny's wholesome show will memory hole the islands, the flight logs, the art parties that end in screams. And you're seeing that today. Everything that paragraph, nothing deeper do any of the Epsteiniacs want to talk about. Oh, was Trump friends with him? Did Trump take a picture? Did Howard Lutnick take a picture? What about the stuff I've seen? That's way worse than a picture. Why is nobody, even on the topical, why is Bill Clinton in a dress in Jeffrey Epstein's apartment or house? Huh? What was Hillary and Huma Abedin doing? No, nobody want to know any of this stuff? Why did Ashley Biden say that she took showers with her father? Nobody want to ask those questions? Because they don't want the answers. Even when Bob Howland was talking to Howard Lutnick, if Howard Lutnick would have said, well, I was there having breakfast and I couldn't believe what I saw. No, hey, stop. Oh, if he had said something like that, can you imagine if he had said, I saw XYZ hanging out in the pool? And, oh, no, they would have shut his microphone off. You're asking about somebody who had lunch with his family in a place like the island, but you didn't ask a question. It was interesting. Well, by chance, did you see anybody else there, Mr. Lutnick? No, that question didn't get answered. Did you notice anybody else's boat while your boat was there, Mr. Lutnick? No, didn't ask that one. It's a lot of people moving around. Were there any other people there? What were they doing? Nope, didn't ask that question. Palm Beach Sheriff, when you talked to President Trump and they said, yeah, he's a weird dude. Any of the reporters go down to Palm Beach and go, so what is he doing that made Trump kick him out? Nobody want to know that story? Who was the person that he was doing it with? Who else was there? Oh, Woody Allen had a party. What was Woody Allen doing with? No, nobody want to ask those questions because they don't want you to know the answers. You have Ghislaine Maxwell, she ain't giving you nothing. Nope. I can't say a word. Don't know nothing. Victims? Can we keep calling them victims at this point? I'm being soft here, but how long do we have to call people victims who now there's information out that they were perpetrators? None of the senators, none of the media want to ask any of these women that question. So we've got some emails here that says you guys started grooming after you got. You want to answer that? Nope. No one. Don't want to. All we want to know is what Trump did. That's it. And I can't wait to see what Hillary and Bill do because I think they're going to do the exact same thing as Ghislaine Maxwell. Let's continue. This is psychological warfare executed with surgical precision. Desensitize you in public and devour you in private. They've turned a nation of watchers into a nation of enablers. Remember that. I'm going to come back to that line. They've turned a nation of watchers into a nation of enablers. And they're not done. Not until every last instinct is cauterized and every last child is fair game. But burn their empire to the ground, expose every name, salt the effing earth so nothing this evil ever grows again. The foreplay is over, time to make it bleed out the infection. Let me ask you this. What if the Insurrection Act and Trump's delay in calling for the Insurrection Act is because of something completely different? If you know, as he wrote or she wrote here, that we have to burn this empire to the ground, that we have to completely destroy it, if we have to eviscerate it, if we have to go scorch effing earth, maybe that's what the Insurrection Act is for. You know, they're out there running around the street in 5-degree weather in Minneapolis because people are getting deported. When's the last time you've seen the protest and people storming different places because kids have been having bad things done to them for decades? Where's the protest? Me included. I think to myself, haven't seen that one. Haven't seen anybody storming the Bastille over these kids. Haven't seen anybody going crazy and demanding answers about Epstein. What is it going to take for America to say, We've had enough. All of you scumbags need to get out of Congress. Every single one of you that are covering for these people, we need it all. We need the Panda Eye videos. We need it all. Because when that comes, and I do think it's coming, when it comes, you are not going to be able to turn the channel like it's Bad Bunny on a Sunday afternoon. You will not be able to sleep. You will cry wherever you're sitting. Ask Robin. What's the stuff you're talking about, honey? I don't think you're ready for it, babe. Wake up the next morning and she's sitting on a couch crying. I've been up all night. I cannot believe what I just saw. That's when there's an insurrection. That's when people are going to go, oh, hell no. Y'all did this? Then we're going to really need the army, not because of an election, but because when people realize the truth of what's been going on for decades, that's when you're probably going to have martial law, and because people are going to go ballistic. And I have a feeling that many people, maybe even this chat, aren't ready for that. If you've never seen some of the things that some of us have seen, and you can't even find it anymore, and then you realize the story about this person and the story about that person. You see, I get pissed off at these so-called victims because these so-called victims were supposedly kids when it happened. And it's the most heinous, vile, desensitized stuff you'd ever want to hear. And why aren't you screaming this from the frickin' rooftops? Why aren't you prepared to die to save somebody else? If you know that today there could be a little girl or little boy somewhere that's going through what you went through, you're telling me an NDA is stopping you? You're a horrible person. You're an absolute horrible piece of you-know-what. Are there kids in dungeons right now? Are there women being moved in the bottom of ships? And you're worried about your frickin' NDA? And then if you find out that there's kids being moved under, in a hull of a ship or in the back of a tractor trailer, and they're, heading over to this place or that place or the Super Bowl to do whatever, are you ready to get out in the street and scream and just go absolutely nuts? Because that's where we need to get to. Not over this craziness that's happening in Minneapolis. So I'm just wondering, I don't know if we're ever going to get there, but I would love for President Trump to go, you guys want to know everything, huh? Really? You should. I'm going to take a poll. I would love him to go outside and do a speech. How many of you are prepared to see what I have seen? Understanding your lives and your minds will never be the same. You will not sleep. You will not eat. You will cry incessantly, and some of you may even commit suicide. Ask some of these cops. My sheriff buddy, he texted me, and he's like, homicide cops can be homicide cops for quite a long time. He goes, most people in the child abuse units last a year or less. They can't stomach what they see. I showed you yesterday the guy from the DuPont Air, 6'4", 300 pounds, admitted doing something so vile with a 3-year-old little girl, and he got probation. And I watched some of you guys talk. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But nobody stormed the courthouse in Delaware. And I showed you his lawyer was Beau Biden. And that's just one incident. So if President Trump said, my fellow Americans, I'm about to show you something that's going to change you forever. And some of you will never recover from what you are about to see. Am I being far-fetched? Go look at some of these cops who saw what was on Anthony Weiner's laptop. Nobody wants to talk about that. Some of them are dead right now because of what they saw. I'm like, oh, gosh. Welcome to their nightmare. Alice Cooper made an album about it, but welcome to their nightmare. And I don't think enough people understand the evil that we're up against. So when they're talking about Epstein and they're saying your name's in a file and this and the other thing, think about what they're not talking to you about. Because it's completely beyond the pale that most people can function with those memories. Robin told me last night, she goes, I still sometimes, something will come back and I'll remember this picture or that video or something. I remember, I think I told you guys once before, when all this stuff was happening in the Middle East, I think the first war, and they were chopping people's heads off. Remember that? And then the other one was they were burning people in these things that look like bird cages. And people were posting that on YouTube. And they're like, don't look, don't look. And of course, me and my buddy went, oh, oh, I'd never seen somebody get their head chopped off. And is he sawing his head off? Never forgot it. Never to this day. I almost can smell the flesh burning as this guy was. I'm like, they're burning somebody. Now imagine that being a 3-year-old little kid being completely destroyed by a 6'4", 300-pound person whose lawyer's name was Beau Biden, who got the guy a slap on the wrist. And yet people on X want to play games now. You ain't ready. You ain't ready for this fight. I don't think most people are. That's why I sometimes say, you know what, this is a game. Doesn't really matter. Not because I don't care about the kids. My God, you'd have to tie me up with handcuffs if something ever happened to one of my granddaughters or my daughter or my wife. No, I would be like, what's his name? Liam Neeson. I got a particular set of skills. And when I find you, I'm going to kill you. Slowly. But it still doesn't, this stuff that we're seeing here it's all crap. It's complete crap. That's why I say, it doesn't, this talk is talk. Yeah, like he says it here, look and delve into that. Those things can never be unseen. And it's feeling because it's weird because a lot of people don't even want to acknowledge that kind of evil. See, that's the other problem. People, yeah, oh, your name. What do you think Epstein did? Oh, yeah, he did this thing. What would you think if you saw it? What if you, like I said, what if tonight they said, at 8 p.m. tonight, we're going to televise what they did to this kid? If I'm right, somebody said, if I'm right, that 6'4" person was doing that to his own daughter. Yes, indeed. It was his own daughter. The depravity that we are now being, I'm not saying that Bad Bunny was like that at all. I'm not even intimating that Bad Bunny was that kind of a person. But the desensitization that goes along with that leads to those kind of people. All right. So anyway, I don't want to leave you guys on a dark note, although that's really dark right now. We went way into the bowels here. So let's come back. Let's come back. So tonight, President Trump is, well, actually, it was taped yesterday. It goes live at 4 o'clock. I will take that. We'll show it tonight as an interview with Larry Kudlow. And then we'll do a show tonight. We'll talk about that. And there's some other news. I've got Mike Johnson. We're talking about the SAVE Act. Tomorrow is going to be a weird show. 10 o'clock tomorrow, Pam Bondi is scheduled for a hearing, an oversight committee, which I think is going to be bombastic, Mr. Bombastic. I think it's going to be a bombastic hearing. So I'll turn that on. I'll jump in and out while, she's talking until we get to like 1 o'clock where we get to the regular show, but I'll turn it on. I'll be with you because I want to see it myself. So we'll run that in its entirety. That is tomorrow at 10 o'clock, but I'll talk to you guys more about that tonight. And we'll go over it and understand, man, I am not trying to over dramatize what exactly is happening. I'm just saying there's so much that has happened that I don't even think that the people who are doing things in these hearings understanding the doors that they're possibly opening or trying. That stuff comes out, it's going to be absolutely awful. All right, so let me do these super chats and then we can go over here. TMZ shows Bad Bunny 35% approval, Kid Rock at 65. Bad Bunny may have recruited some, but awakened many. Good. Bielka, why haven't they called Jeffrey to testify? Oh, good question. I'd love to see that. Kelly Raxter, need open is somebody's done their homework. I don't even want to go. Yeah, there you go. Dave Rattan, the Rothschilds have funded both sides of all wars for hundreds of years. Hundreds! Bielka, Savannah is doing the Clintons biting. I don't even know what's going on with her mom. I just find it odd that it's 24/7, that they won't even break for any other news. They didn't even take the press conference. I mean, I think they showed Caroline Leavitt's press conference going on. All right, so back to this crazy. Chiosop, Tyler Oliveira snuck onto Epstein Island to see what was going on, and they also flew a drone which caught an image of someone that looked like him. Bielka, the Clinton delayed to prepare for the deposition. I bet. Making Blankenship, using Biden as a way to slide Kamala in again. Oh boy. Jeanette, those of us who have read the 17th letter have known about this for a long time. She says she's cried. Exactly. There are some people who have known this stuff for a long, long time. The biggest thing a lot of people don't realize, maybe you realize today, that it's been going on since 2006 at the least. Who knows how long it's been going on? I mean, this stuff has been going on for a while. The whole tie-in with Epstein, it was 10 years before Trump ever ran for president. But they knew how much of a threat he would be because he knew. He knew back then. Crazy stuff happening. Crazy stuff. And Caroline was absolutely, she had enough of these people. And you know what's funny? Let me just tell you, that's how Ashley and I and Robin have been feeling. It's like, I can't keep doing this stuff the same way. One of the reasons why I wanted to delve into this, this afternoon is because people are just touching the surface and think they're doing something. And it's the same shit every single day. Epstein, 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 Epstein. But they don't try to fix it. They don't try to do anything about it. They just try to continue to use it as a weapon. And so it's the same old story. And the only thing at this point I'm going to begin focusing on is telling you actual news that they're not showing you. So we're going to talk more about the economy. We're going to talk more about some of the stuff that Maha's doing. We're going to talk more about what these hearings in terms of what the border stuff actually said. Like the border came out, ICE and border came out today. We're going to talk more about the SAVE Act. We're going to, tomorrow, I was scheduled to have Ashley Brosfield on today, but I thought that Caroline was going to run long and then she just walked off disgusted. Because I'm here to discuss what's going on, and the media doesn't want anybody. Forget them. The ones in the seats that want to know. I'm serious. You can go right now, you can go on Fox and you can turn it on and come back in an hour and it's still the same thing, just on a loop. Essentially, the media has shut down. Essentially, right now, the media has decided There's nothing else to talk about because doing so helps Trump. Do you know the government's about to shut down, right? Nobody's talking about it. Epstein and Guthrie. Bibi Netanyahu's coming into town tomorrow. Oh, the trolls will be out for sure. Pam Bondi, as I told you, is testifying tomorrow. Nope, nobody's talking about it. So now is a good time for me to begin digging deeper because nobody's going to be talking about what I'm talking about. Maybe some other podcasters, but that's about it. Because nobody wants to talk about it? Good. It gives us an opportunity to go deeper. So tomorrow, if you see a show, it's a little bit different than what you expect. Understand it's different because I'm over it. Doesn't mean I don't care. Doesn't mean I'm protecting pedos. It means I'm over it. I could do a lot more with my time to keep talking about Epstein. And we have so much good stuff happening. All right, I'll see you guys at 7 or 7:30 with President Trump interview and whatever real news I can find. Talk to you in a few hours.
Thank you.